The film begins with three thrill seekers climbing a huge stone wall. They are Becky Grace Caroline Curry, her husband Dan Mason Gooding, and her closest companion Hunter Virginia Gardner. During the trip, Becky needs to jump from her side over to Dan, who gets her as Dan proceeds with his way up. He is frightened by a bat flying out of its opening and he misfortune his balance. Dan holds tight and attempts to move back up, yet his bridle comes free and he tumble to his demise. Almost a year after the fact, Becky has turned into a drunkard and hasn't continued on from Dan's death. She has additionally stayed away from contact with her dad, James Jeffrey Deere Morgan. From that point onward, he told her that she shouldn't need to continue to grieve Dan in light of the fact that he could probably won't have been who she thought he was, and he would be shutting something similar assuming it were Becky that died. Becky later returns home from the bar and plans to end it all by going too far until she gets a call from Hunter. She appears at Becky's place to comfort her as he recommends that they climb a television tower that is more than 2,000 feet high. Becky is reluctant since she hasn't gone moving since Dan's demise. Hunter stays with her short term. Becky has a horrible that Dan is close to her in bed, dead and bloody. At the point when she awakens, she lets Hunter know that she recalls words that Dan enlightened her regarding not being terrified to live, so she consents to go with her to the tower. Hunter drives the two out to an area near the tower. They stop at a burger joint for food when Hunter helps Becky charge her telephone by involving a light as a power source to connect. They stay at the inn for a night before the huge trip. The young ladies drive out towards the tower, yet cannot go farther than the entryway, passing on them to stroll there. They find Vulture lifting up off the body of a scarcely alive coyote, and the young ladies drove the vulture away. When they show up, Becky practically back out because of nerves, yet Hunter persuades all her going. They start their ascent and stop after 1,000 feet, where they notice the view up until this point, and Hunter remarks that they have passed the level of the Eiffel Tower. As they further up, they need to ascend one more 200 feet on an outside stepping stool which is rusted and broken down. A few bolts come free. As Hunter plays while attempting to move up, the two at long last come to the top and appreciate the view. Hunter takes recordings for her virtual entertainment page and uses a drone to fly out around the area. Hunter then, at that point, chooses to take pictures while looming over the edge. Furthermore, persuades a hesitant Becky to do likewise. Becky additionally utilizes the valuable chance to spread Dan's remains from the top, which makes Hunter profound. At the point when the girls choose to begin climbing, Becky goes first and comes to the piece of the ladder where the fasteners feel off. The ladder loosens up, causing Becky to drop their bag with the drone and their water to a satellite down underneath. Hunter figures out how to pull Becky back up utilizing their bridle, yet the ladder to move down is totally obliterated. Becky likewise gets a huge cut on her drove, however Hunter makes a tourniquet for it. They find binocular and a flare weapon in the compartment on the tower. However, they hold on to utilize it until vital. The two find that they have no sign up there to call for help. They feel that the stepping stool crashing could stand out, yet 5 hours pass and no one has called for help. With the optics, they see a trailer stopped up ahead close to the entryway. Hunter attempts to bring down her telephone to receive out a message convey in the reception room. She brings down it to the extent that it can go and attempts to go lower and drop the telephone by placing it in Hunter's shoe and tapping it with hers and Becky's socks in addition to Hunter's sports bra so it doesn't break. At the point when it raises a ruckus around town. Sadly, that is precisely exact thing occurs. One of the men from the trailer strolls his canine close to the site and the canine track downs Hunter's shoe and the messed up telephone. The girls spot them and attempts to stand out by tossing Becky's shoes, however without much of any result. They appear to be that the man joins his companion to barbecue food and young ladies chooses hold on until it's sufficiently dull to stand out enough to be noticed with the flare firearm. When the sun goes down, they make their endeavor and focus the light from Becky's telephone to cause to notice themselves. Anyway, while the two men in all actuality do see the young ladies, they additionally see Hunter's vehicle and drive the trailer around there to take it. The young ladies began to get dried out and hungry. Becky watches a video from her and Dan's wedding, yet sees Hunter looking dour behind the scenes. She likewise spot a tattoo on Hunter's foot that says 143, which is something that Dan's would agree on the grounds that he could never really tell Becky "I love you" back to her, rather tapping the quantity of letter in each word. Tracker confesses all and concedes that she and Dan engaged in extramarital relations that carried on for a long time after they become inebriated and Dan took the primary action. Hunter says she severed it since despite the fact that she had experienced passionate feelings for Dan. She cherished Becky significantly more. The next morning Becky notes that it has been 24 hours since they dropped Hunter's telephone, compelling them to recognize that the telephone is broken. Hunter then says she can move down to the satellite and get the pack to arrive at their provisions. She utilizes the saddle to bring down herself and figures out how to bounce onto the satellite. Subsequent to having some water, Hunter utilizes her selfie stick to snare the pack to the bridle and use it to assist herself with moving back up while attempting to ascend. Hunter slips yet seems to in any case arrive on the bag. But with her hands experiencing rope consume, constraining Becky to pull her back up. The girls then, at that point, compose a note and connect it to the drone to attempt to send it back to the inn. The battery is excessively low, so they fly it back before it falls. Becky recollects Hunter charging Hack and moves to the actual top of the tower to plug the roll drone into the light power source when the fitting won't reach. Becky purposes her wedding ring to charge the current. Becky hangs on 4 hours while a vulture flies toward her since it smells her leg wound. Becky oversees it, charge it totally and flies it out. Simply the drone arrives at the inn, a truck collides with it and obliterates it. The driver neglects to see it. Becky begins to develop more incoherent from lack of hydration and starvation. She asks Hunter for her shoe so she can send her own telephone to call for help. It is uncovered that the Hunter she has been conversing with for most recent couple of hours was a mind flight. Hunter never arrived on the bag and hit the satellite while attempting to scale as she drained to death. Becky just pulled up the pack and was envisioning Hunter to not have the option to confront the way that she is up there isolated. By the following morning the vulture has tracked down Becky dozing and attempts to pick at her leg. Becky then gets the vulture by the neck and slams it until it is dead and she starts to eat it. Becky acknowledges she has one final opportunity to make do. She sends message to James saying sorry for how she treated him when he was only paying special attention to her. She moves down the satellite and remove Hunter's shoe to place her telephone in and stuffs the shoe in Hunter's stomach since Vulture was at that point picking at her body. Becky pushes Hunter's body over the satellite so the message can go out. James is seen heading toward the tower when he tracks down an entire group of specialists at the scene. He finds them taking Hunter's body, which he fears is Becky, until Becky has been as of now saved and cut down securely. Becky runs into James' arms and they reconcile.